Good morning, everybody. Well, I guess it's a happy Monday. Welcome to episode number 39. I guess that's the Minka Fitzpatrick episode. And today we are going to be talking the Steelers loss to the New York Jets 24-20. Jim, how are you doing this fine Monday?
I'm great. It is a good Monday. It is a good morning. I know the loss. I know 1-3. I know losing to the Jets. I know all that's hard, but you agree. Kenny Pickett looked like he did in the preseason.
Yeah,
Man, he looks like a player, doesn't he?
he
He looks
does.
like a championship quarterback in the making. It's going to take a little time.
Right. And we are going to get into everything regarding the loss to the Jets, including the next four games, which are going to be very, very difficult to say the least. But Jim, let's go ahead and jump right into it. This fine Monday morning, 24-20 loss to the Jets. Let's start with obviously what everybody wants to hear about halftime. And I know I was shocked because I didn't see it coming this soon. I thought eventually we would get to the point where Kenny would get the opportunity. But he goes in there to start in the third quarter after the Jets' first drive, and Acrisure Stadium loses its mind. Let's talk about it.
Jeremy, this is your chance to gloat. I'm surprised you're being so humble. I thought you were expecting this.
I said the Tampa Bay game, not the Jets game.
Well, okay, what, a couple weeks, but I mean, I was really surprised. I was really surprised. I thought, well, Mitch took a personal foul that negated his interception and gave them. Was that the 51-yard field goal or the 59-yard field goal? Was that the
59? Wasn't the 50?
Yeah. So okay. So I mean, how much did Mitch have to do with that? Not much. But I still thought, well, that's a field goal. They'll use that as the momentum required. And Mitch might be able to pull this out, maybe not. But then, down on the sideline, Will Graves from the Associated Press was sitting next to me. He goes, looks like Pickett. And I was busy with some stats or something. I said, what are you talking about? You guys are crazy with all this stuff. Tomlin's not going to make this move yet. I looked down. There was Trubisky in his ball cap, kind of standing back a little bit. He didn't look like he was pouting or anything, but didn't look like he was getting ready to go in. And quarterback coach was talking to Pickett on the sideline with his helmet on. I don't know what y'all saw on TV, but that's what I was watching during halftime. And people kept coming up to Kenny and bumping him, patting his butt, stuff like that. And then I saw those same people going over and patting Mitch on the back like that was consolation. Those were consolation pats. The other guys were fist bumping him like, you could do this, man. I'm like, wow, this is really going to happen. Yeah. And sure enough, the stadium lit up. But, wasn't, my understanding is it wasn't some announcement in the locker room. It kind of leaked out. Deontay Johnson said he was told on his way back to the field after halftime. So, the NFL locker rooms are a little different. Yeah, they just huddled with Kenny and told him what's going to do. And his number one receiver, well, that might be George Pickens, but his number one receiver, Deontay Johnson, otherwise didn't know until they got onto the field.
So what do you think? What was it that Tomlin made that decision? Because that's got to be a Tomlin decision, something that big. Yeah. What was it with Trubisky's play? Because he's talked about, hey, we're going to ride with Mitch. What compelled him to make that change so early?
Well, I told you about Pickett had a terrible Wednesday practice.
Yeah.
And Tomlin was surprisingly hot. So you can look at that in retrospect as Tomlin had expectations for this kid to start, showing him, having a good week of practice to justify this. Tomlin had him on his mind, which in retrospect so he's a little, come on, man, let's pick this up. I might have plans for you this week. He couldn't watch Mitch anymore. I'm used to coaches that watch Mitch and are but I mean he wasn't moving the team.
Yeah.
You could say that maybe he didn't get he should have been given another half. I mean, some people are saying he wasn't given enough time, and maybe if he rallies past the Jets and he doesn't throw the interceptions Kenny had. I don't know that Kenny's were bad interceptions, right?
Mm-hmm.
There were deflections. The Hail Mary, you can throw that off.
Yeah.
I thought the miss on the pitch might have been his bigger mistake.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, that's nitpicking stuff. And maybe Mitch doesn't do that. Maybe they win by 3. And maybe you're 2-2 and you really haven't changed much about this team if Mitch stays at quarterback for loss to the Bills and the rest that are to come. So, Tomlin was tired of it. He wasn't. So, if you want to stretch and say Mitch deserved another half to see if he could come back after getting a little momentum by being personally fouled, that's all he did on that drive was be personally fouled.
Well,
so you could say that, but yeah, who's going to argue that this was time, especially, like I've been saying all along, Tomlin knows what Pickett doesn't know.
Yeah.
We don't.
Right.
So Tomlin must have been satisfied. And you look at how he played, it looked just like the preseason.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those couple of interceptions, at the 31, we could say, well, why pitch the ball? Okay, we could blame the play calling there, but I really have no qualms about any of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's dig into the numbers and the performance here of Pickett a little bit, and just comparing something that jumped out to me looking at the stat lines here. Trubisky 6.5 yards per attempt, Pickett 9.2, and that's a pretty significant difference there. And everybody's going to point to Pickett's interceptions. I saw some criticism of Pickett there on those picks. The one in Claypool, I'm sorry, if it hits you in your hands, and Claypool is supposed to be that combat catch guy, catch the ball. Now, the throw to Freiermuth, he's getting beat up on that a little bit. He should have just thrown it out of bounds. But, I mean, it did hit Freiermuth's hands there. But let's talk about just his Pickett's performance and how you would assess his first action in an NFL game.
There was a play in which Quinnen Williams, wasn't he like the number 2 pick of a draft?
Yeah.
This is a bad dude.
Yeah.
It's a bad dude. I don't know what it looked like on TV. From the press box, it looked like he blasted him.
Oh, it was bad.
Okay? Somebody wrote that he threw him to the ground. That makes it sound like, he would grab him by the shoulders and throw. I thought it was just a crushing blow.
Yeah.
One that you don't want this guy taking too many times. One that some guys will say, see, you shouldn't put him back behind this offensive line. I don't believe in that. But, man, he delivered. It was a strike, and Freiermuth down the field. So forget about all this. We're trying to nitpick and force some mistakes and blame him for stuff. That throw is what I'm going to remember from that performance.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And what's crazy, Jim, is I think there was a game in the preseason, and you mentioned it was a continuation of preseason play. There was a similar play where he got absolutely drilled and he delivered the pass. Same type. So, I mean, must be his game. He's fearless in the pocket.
Yeah. Again, we don't want no brain trauma developing.
No.
No.
We can't hate him for 10 years.
I think that throw in the preseason was to Freiermuth as well.
Okay.
And, forget the result. Forget these, nitpicking these mistakes. Look at the character for Pickett, for one. I mean, he looks like a quarterback you can win a championship with eventually. Forget about making the playoffs. I don't care, make the playoffs or whatever. I mean, we're going to watch what happened last year again. Yeah. But, Freiermuth, Pat, this was a one-on-one. I'm developing a relationship with Pat, and he could have said anything, and he could have trusted me, if he thought it was a bad pass or it was a bad pick, a bad decision by Kenny. It was all my fault. Yeah. I'm like, well, wait a minute. That'd have been a tough catch. You can't take all the blame. He goes, no, it hit me in the hands. That was all me. And he was just so sad and distraught. He truly was taking accountability for that.
Yeah.
Jalen Warren. I'm developing a good relationship with him. Jalen, what happened on that pitch? Oh, I must have lined up too deep. I go, you're too hard on yourself. He goes, well, I should have caught it. It hit my fingertips. And we all know it was a bad pitch. but he wanted to take accountability. Even Kenny said, no, that was on me. Yeah. Jalen's crazy because somebody used that. He was too deep. He's saying he's too deep. Kenny said, nah, that was me. Accountability on all parts of all, no finger pointing, no nothing. I talked to James Daniels. He's pretty much the leader of that offensive line. I like some of the other guys. He stepped up and he took my questions. And I reminded him what Faneca said about Ben Roethlisberger when Ben was a rookie stepping in. Allen was I'm not excited about a rookie quarterback. They just don't know enough. James, man, he's ready. I don't agree with that. I'm ready. My job is to block for him. My job is to make sure he doesn't get hit. Right. There's accountability there. There's accountability all over the locker room. And these were one-on-one interviews, not mob scenes where the cliche is always uttered in front of cameras. Yeah. These are personal interviews, and they know I'll protect them. And I just want background stuff. They're all accountable. They're all in on this. They all like it. There's no grumbling. There's no blaming Pickett for this, that's part of our jobs in the game reviews. But when you're writing your column and your opinion, your visceral takeaways, this was a big day. This is a big day for the Steelers.
And I think you could use the axiom here that they may have lost the battle, but they've won the war, because with Trubisky, you didn't have that optimism that he was going to take you to the playoffs consistently or lead you to the Super Bowl. And I'm not saying that we're guaranteed this with Pickett, but you have the hope, the optimism that he's the next franchise guy. And I know it's just one half of football, but Steelers Nation, even though even though the Steelers lost to the Jets, you have to feel good about the future of this franchise under Kenny Pickett.
You have to. You do. It was one half of football, but it was the same stuff we were seeing in the preseason. So that wasn't a mirage. That wasn't a part of dumbing down the offense, a vanilla offense, and going against other teams' backups. Yeah. This is the same thing we saw. We saw it again, and we saw him take a brutal blast from an elite defensive lineman. So, it is a big day. It really is.
So here's the big question, Jim, because I know some people are saying that Mike Tomlin was non-committal in his press conference about Pickett starting next week in Buffalo. He's got to be the starter, right? There's no way it's Trubisky.
Oh, I'm not going to make up his decision for him. I mean, you know what? Does it really matter? I mean, he needs his development. There's no doubt. And that will happen. We're seeing a coach who's not afraid to give him time and go through this necessary process of developing a young quarterback. Yeah. Whether he starts him in a sure loss at Buffalo, that's up to him. I think he'll make the right decision. And I don't know what the right decision is, because I don't know what I don't know about Kenny. Yeah. And what, his understanding of everything and getting him ready to start this game, what that entails. Right. But you got to realize that Tomlin has to be happy. He'll never admit it. It was a loss. Right. But he has to be happy with what he saw. Right.
So let's just do a quick recap of, let's hit on the defense real fast. I do want to give credit to the offensive line. They had a nice push, I felt, in the running game. There are a little bit of problems in pass protection. Defensively, just seems like more of the same issues that are coming up with inability to stop the run in key situations. What's your take on the defense?
Yeah, the defensive front, disappointing. But we know we've been, at Steel City Insider, we have a college spotlight, and again we focused on defensive linemen. Our draft analyst Roy Countryman, this is his second D tackle that he's focused on, and I think we can see that the pick's getting higher and higher each week. And I think we all know that that's the area that needs to be addressed. So to be shocked that they got gouged again, I don't believe it's scheme. Mm-hmm. I don't believe it's Miles Jack. I don't believe it's Devin Bush. He could always have better players. And I don't know that Miles Jack has the health and the youth in his physicality to make it through the rebuild. Yeah. And my column, my opinion column that I just finished, what you had to wait for before we did this podcast. I wrote about what Chuck Noll said to the 1969 team, which is was a much bigger, deeper hole than this team is in. But, Chuck said, hey, the good news is we're going to win a championship here. The bad news is most of you won't be here for it. So, as I laid out the foundational pieces in today's column, the way Miles Jack plays, I'd like to consider him a foundational piece. I just don't know if he's young enough physically to withstand that. So I'm not knocking him. Ogunjobi, guys like that are decent players, but Cam's in and out now. Cam's getting beat up, 2 different injuries. So, they're getting run on.
Yeah.
They're getting run on by a team that's been drafting top 10 for how many years now? So there's some talent on the Jets, trust me.
Right. So then let's kind of close this up here, Jim. If we forecast out for the rest of the season, and I'm not asking for a prediction or anything, but where does this team go from here after, 3 straight losses and now the most brutal stretch of their schedule? Are they going to go over their last 7?
Well, I don't know. Other teams get beat up and have key injuries too. And so you never know where that's going to pop up on the schedule. And I'll let you stick with the predictions. I'm just going to report on this grind. It's a grind. It's a process. It's a rebuild. And in my opinion, the rebuild just got a huge lift by finding the quarterback. Well, we kind of figured he was the quarterback, but I think now you can say, yeah, this isn't a preseason mirage. This kid's the real deal. So that's what I take away.
Right. And I'm not rushing it, but man, I can't wait till Latrobe next year. Kenny Pickett starter.
Hey, we just got to October. I love October, man. Come on. Let me enjoy this brisk air.
Yep. All right. Well, everybody, we appreciate you joining us here for the Still City Insider podcast. This is episode 39. We're going to hit 40. We're going to turn 40 next week, Jim. Incredible.
Who wore number 40 for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Myron Boo Bell episode, huh?
That's who I was going to say. Yeah. So we will be back at you next week. Hopefully we're talking a upset win over the Bills with Kenny Pickett at the helm, but we will be back here next week. You can check out Jim's work at the Still City Insider. Give him a follow on Twitter at Jim Wexell. You can check out my work at thestillstudy.com and give me a follow at Still Study on Twitter. But in between now and Sunday, have a tremendous week. And let's go Steelers. Take it easy, Jim.
Later, Jeremy.